Hi, my name is Brandon, and I'm an alcoholic and addict in recovery, and today I'm going to talk about Step 9, the step where we make amends to people that we have wronged in the past. This is the step that we see all the time in television and in movies where an alcoholic or an addict goes to someone that they've wronged in the past, and there's a teary apology, and then there's hugging, and people make up, and they move along with their lives. And that's not exactly what this step looks like. And to get a better picture of what an amends really looks like, we have to separate it from an apology. I want to read some of what Tommy Rosen says about this in Recovery 2.0 to get us started. So step 9 is make direct amends to such people, the people that we previously in step 8, we listed people that we hurt. And step 9 is where we make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And here's what Tommy says about this step. An amends is not an apology. An apology lets someone know that you feel bad for doing something. An amends is significantly more. The word amends means to make better by changing. In making amends, we are presenting ourselves as a changed person. Yes, we're sorry for what we've done. We also want to make reparations to set the matter straight, and we will not behave this way again. We have changed. We are taking life on life's terms, and this is the next thing that life has presented. Very, very different from just telling someone you're sorry. A lot of times in our addiction and in our previous life, we probably just told people we were sorry to get them off our backs. That was the way that we got them to quit bothering us. That was the way we bought ourselves more time to behave the same way that we were behaving in order to piss them off in the first place. And our apologies were just a way of getting people to leave us alone. That's not what amends are about. Amends are about really recognizing that there are things that we did wrong and ways that we need to change our behavior, and then letting other people know that we've figured that out, and discussing with them and understanding if there's anything they need from us in order to mend the relationship that we have with them. Now, there's a few things about this step. One of the things that scared me about this step was that I thought that this step was going to require me to, for example, look up someone that I said something rude to at a party 20 years ago and call them and apologize for that. I thought that I would have to find these people who might not even remember me and make apologies to them for things they might not even remember happening. Now, every sponsor is different, but when I brought that to my sponsor, he said, no, that's not the point of this step. And in fact, you don't want to go to people and dredge up things that might be hurtful to them that they've already dealt with in order to heal yourself. And it's very difficult sometimes to know where that's a possibility. And that's why it's so important to go through this and all of the steps, but this step especially with a sponsor. Because what I did with my sponsor is I looked at all the different people that I had heard in the past, and we talked about what would an amends with this person look like. Is it more appropriate for me to sit this person down and talk to them? And there were certainly several situations where that was the appropriate thing to do. Or is it appropriate for me to recognize that I have been wrong in this situation, be prepared to talk to them should the opportunity arise to do so, but not necessarily dredge things up in a way that might hurt them or other people? And that's something we had to do on a case-by-case basis. It was because there were a lot of times where I felt like I should go and talk to someone where my sponsor was able to point out different ways that doing so might actually be hurtful to them or others. So that's why it's very important to go through this with a sponsor. The other reason that it's important is that there may be people on your list that you are unable to make amends to. For example, if you stole from a store that no longer exists, you can't go to the owner of that store and make amends. But one thing you can do is make sure that you never steal in the future, that you're honest in all your transactions, that if you get out to the car and you find that the cashier didn't charge you for something, that you take time to go back into the store and pay for that, even if it inconveniences you to do so. That's what a living amends looks like. And so when you talk to your sponsor about that, they'll also help you identify the places where that's appropriate. Another place that might be appropriate for that is if you are a parent and you have a young child that you have hurt with your addiction, but they don't truly understand it. They're too young to understand it. You may not be able to talk directly to them about the nature of the wrongs that you've committed against them. So it may be more appropriate for you to work at a living amends until that time becomes available, and until they're older and old enough to understand the depth of your the depth of the way you feel about the situation. So the one of the other important parts of the step 9 is that this is where we're introduced to what a lot of people call the AA promises. Now, most people that I talk to will point out that there are promises throughout the AA big book. But at the end of every meeting, you typically go through the promises as they're presented in step 9. And these promises are the basically, as Tommy Rosen puts them, the 12 promises could be summed up in one sentence: if you do this well, you will be free. And I'm not going to read through them all here, but the idea is that once we're halfway through the process of step 9, we start to see some things change, because this is where all of the things that we've done in steps 4 through 8 start to take shape in us, and we start to see a shift within ourselves as we take responsibility for the things that we have done in the past and start to look every day at what we're responsible for throughout the day. It really is a pivotal point in the process. It is a difficult point in the process. Looking people in the eye and apologizing to them for your behavior, and going even further than that, and making sure that they understand how you've changed in order to prevent that behavior in the future, and going even further than that and making sure that you have changed. That's difficult stuff. It's not easy, and it's an ongoing process. It's like all the other steps. This is ongoing. There is always room for this step to take place. And this kind of step should be taking place on a very regular basis. But the important thing is that you are working through this step with a sponsor, so you know the appropriate way to go through it. Not all sponsors are the same in the way they approach it, but that's why it's so important to seek guidance from the sponsor that you are working with, so that you understand what they feel like is important. And it's a difficult thing to do sometimes, to face one of these situations and decide that you're not going to talk to someone about it. Sometimes you just wish you could get it off your back, and this is again a time where discussing that with a sponsor becomes so important, because you don't want your selfish need for healing to hurt someone else. And step 9 is where you start to learn, where does that boundary exist? Because it's a boundary you're going to have to be aware of the rest of your life. And you're going to have to seek advice about, am I crossing that line the rest of your life? So This is a great place to start practicing it, and it's a great place to start learning what it means to not only embrace the fact that you're wrong sometimes and you need to do something to fix it, but also embracing the fact that change is what's required in order for us to truly show that we're sorry about the things we've done. That's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow with more. Have a good one.